today is on grapes, brambles, berries, everything but trees that you can harvest. So, well, not everything.
Good trees.
Oh, you do? Okay, okay, there you go. So, but I have a guest speaker, Jim Rupe. Now, Jim, he's a local, he's one of us, but he represents the largest grower in the country. He just happens to live here and cover basically Arizona. And so he's Monrovia Growers. And Monrovia, there's different grades of everything, like cars. You know, there's Kias and there's Suburbans or Subarus, and then there's Lexus and there's Mercedes. Well, he's the Mercedes of the, or whatever fancy car you drive. That's what he represents. His plants are obviously better. They hold them an extra year and trim them and shape them, and they introduce new varieties. But he's also a really smart gardener.
Like Ken mentioned, we're going to talk about some berries and grapes. So we'll start out with raspberries. Yes, you can grow raspberries here. Basically, there's two types of raspberries. We have our ever-bearing, which they call fall-bearing raspberries, and we have our summer-bearing raspberries. Now, what you need to know about raspberries is pruning them. Why do we prune our berries and our brambles? Well, for two reasons. Basically, when we think of berries, we often think of this big overgrown patch that you can't reach into and grab them, and you get all cut up by the thorns and all that. So by pruning them properly, you keep your berry patch smaller. Even for a small yard, you can have raspberries and blackberries even in a small yard. You don't have to have a large area for it if you do proper pruning with them. If you don't do proper pruning with them, you will still get berries. So it's a win-win. So either way. So basically, fall-bearing or ever-bearing, what we call fall-bearing raspberries, they produce fruit twice a year for you. The canes that come up in the summer, they're going to produce fruit in the fall on the top third of the cane. And then after that fall fruit is done fruiting, you prune that top third off, just prune it off. And then the plant goes into winter, it goes dormant, and then as it comes out of dormancy, you're going to get a summer crop on that bottom 2/3 of that same cane. And then after that summer crop, you've harvested that, what you're going to do is cut that cane all the way out. So that cane has done its thing for you. It gave you a fall crop, gave you a summer crop. You can leave it, but that's going to create more bramble than you want, and that cane is not going to be very productive and produce very good fruit for you the following year. So you cut that out, and then what you want to do is harvest the new, about on the ever-bearing ones, about 5 to 8 canes. You want to let those come up, let's start coming up in the summertime, pick the strongest 5 to 8, and you leave those and let those grow, and those are going to be next year, that fall crop for you, and next year's crop. And you just repeat that cycle every year. And that's all you have to do with raspberries on the ever-bearing type. And then, quite possibly, you might have 20 canes coming up. But like I say, you just want to keep it to 5 to 8 strong canes. That way you're keeping your berry patch manageable, and you're going to get better quality fruit because it's going to be larger fruit. And that's about any, whether it's a fruit tree or whatever, you often want to cull out if there's a lot of fruit. You know, pick some of it off so you really get nice, big, good-sized fruit, whether it's a fruit tree or whatever, etc. And so that's what you do on the ever-bearing. Then there's summer-bearing, what they call summer-bearing raspberries. They just give you fruit once a year, basically, in the summertime. And those, the cane comes up in the summer, and you're going to let that go through. Then in the dormant season, you're going to cut that back to about 5 feet, okay? And then in the summertime, you're going to get fruit production on that cane. And once that is done, once again, you cut that cane out and you allow for more canes. Now on the summer-bearing type, you're going to allow more canes to come up. You can allow 10 to 15 canes to come up if you want on those. As an added note, on the ever-bearing type, there is an alternative pruning system. You don't have to do the cut off the third. You can, on the ever-bearing ones, after it's done, if it's fall crop, and in the wintertime, cut the whole cane off, okay? And what that will do is give you a summer crop. It's going to kind of be just one crop, so you're not going to have two crops on it, but it's going to be a longer crop with very good, usually pretty good berry production on it. So that's an alternative if you want to do that with the ever-bearing type as well, instead of doing the two prunings on it. So like I say, either way, it's not rocket scientist. If you mess up, if you don't prune, you're still going to get berries, but that's just how you manage your berries patch, is by proper pruning, and you'll get better production that way. Really all raspberries need, they like more mulch than some plants, so it's a really good idea to mulch the roots on them. It helps keep the roots cool in the summertime, which is important with especially raspberries. It also protects the roots in the wintertime from getting too cold. Not that that's a real problem here. Your berries actually like good drainage. I know oftentimes we see them out, in streams or, riparian areas as well. But especially in the wintertime, they like to have good drainage areas. When they're dormant, the roots really prefer to have good drainage. So I would recommend always have good drainage. If you don't, do a raised garden bed, maybe something like that. The basic types that you're going to find here, the most common ones is Heritage, which is ever-bearing. It's a smaller fruit, but it's actually quite tasty. Indian Summer is another ever-bearing, and hence the name Indian Summer. It's actually known for having probably larger berries in its fall crop versus its summer crop, so that's why the name Indian Summer on that one, since it has a good fall Indian Summer crop. Fall Gold. Fall Gold is actually one of my favorite tasting ones. Unfortunately, the gold ones don't hold well, ship well. That's why you don't see them in the supermarket as much as the red raspberries. But the taste on these is out of the world. And when I'm in the garden center here and I see them on the plants, I'm sorry, Ken, but I can't resist. I pick them around here. So in my opinion, the Fall Gold is one of the best tasting berries. But like I say, they just don't keep well or ship well. That's why you don't see a lot of them in the markets. And it's an ever-bearing one as well, so you can get two crops off of it. Willamette, or Canby, is a summer bearer. It's almost thornless, so that's the one. If you don't really want to deal with thorns, go with Canby. It'll give you a nice, good summer-fall crop. And it's almost thornless. Not saying it is thornless, but it has less thorns than the others. And then Willamette is known for its very large, deep red. When you think of a raspberry, it has a really nice color to it and a very large fruit. And it's a summer bearer as well. And there's a new one out last couple of years, one called Strawberry Shortcake, this one here. And this is basically a dwarf raspberry. This one was developed for containers, actually, to be used in containers. You can plant it in the ground, don't get me wrong. But if you just want to do a berry in a container, use the Strawberry Shortcake. It only gets to about 2 feet tall, and it blooms on second-year wood. So the growth that happens during the first summer, don't prune that off in the wintertime, because that's going to be your next year's fruit. And after it's done fruiting, then prune it off, just like you would do the other berries, and then cultivate the new ones coming out. It's a summer bearer.
Hey Jim, I can say that I've grown that one 2 years in a big aqua-shaped, colored pot, and it is very pretty, very shapely, easy to maintain, and it does produce very, very well in a pot. And it's just been out there all winter, last 2 winters. It does great, so it's a good performer. I think it produces as heavy as some of the Bramble varieties, but it's just shorter.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Well, it's actually kind of attractive.
Yeah, I got it because it's just it's in our entertainment area, and I want it to be a piece of artwork. It's just pretty with berries, works, yeah.
You have to repot it then every year?
I don't. I'm planning on keeping that in there. It's a pretty big pot because I know berries can be pretty large. I'm planning on that being in there 7-8 years before I have to actually repot it. We'll see. But I really don't want my pots to go longer than really 5 years, or I just get bored. I get bored with them. So I want to try something new, try something else. So yeah.
Full sun?
Full sun, right out there in the patio, on a retaining block patio. So it's got reflective sun as well. It does great. So this does really well.
What kind of soil mix did you use?
I used the Waters potting soil.
Okay.
I just filled it and then plugged it, and that's all I did.
Okay.
And then I fertilize it with the all-purpose plant food a couple times a year, maybe more, 3 times a year. And it seems to make it really, really happy. So yeah, anyway, just a affirmation. It works.
Did you want to go into the fertilizing of the berries in between?
No, I'll let you, I don't want to steal, because you can give me the microphone, I'll just take a whole hour, so it's all yours. Yeah.
All right, we'll move on to blackberries. Blackberries basically produce on 2-year-old wood. Basically, grows the first summer, next summer, that's where you're going to get your fruit from. The exception to that is one called Prime Jim, and also another one called Prime Jane. Jim and Jane, yeah. They're one of the first blackberries to come out that actually are called ever-bearing blackberries as well. And you would treat those as far as pruning the exact same way you would an ever-bearing, fall-bearing raspberry as well. Now, blackberries, there's basically 3 types as far as their growth habit in your pruning. They're called erect, they're more upright, and then you have also trailing, and then there's still here you don't see too many of them, but there's some that are kind of a cross between an erect and a trailing type raspberry or a blackberry in the growth habit. So once again, blackberries probably they do better. I shouldn't say do better. They don't require that you acidify the soil. Like a raspberry would do better if you acidify the soil a little bit. The blackberries tend to do quite well in alkaline soils as well. Once again, full sun is probably better for them. Not to say they will take some light shade, etc., but they do like sun as well. The upright type, the pruning on that, I kind of got it down to explain here a little bit. In midsummer, no later, prune the canes back, the new canes that came up this summer, midsummer, prune them back to about 2.5 feet. And what that will do is force new side shoots, okay? That's what you want. And then cut these side shoots back in the wintertime when they're dormant. Cut those new side shoots out down to about 15 inches, okay? And that's where your fruit's going to be come summertime on those new shoots. So it's creating this new growth that's your producing wood for that summertime. And what is it doing? It's keeping your berry patch down to a manageable size for it as well. And after they have fruited in the summertime, after you've picked them, once again, just like the raspberries, cut it down to the ground and you're done with that cane. And what does that do? You're getting rid of non-productive wood for the next year, or not as productive wood, and you're keeping your berry patch down. And then new canes are going to come up, and you're going to want to cultivate those and kind of thin those out as well to about 5, 10, up to about 10 canes, new canes at the most. Any extras, you prune them out as well. Then there's Prime Jim, which is the blackberry, which I've explained is pruned the same way as you would a ever-bearing, fall-bearing raspberry on the Prime Jim. And then you have your thornless boysenberries. We all like those because there's no thorns on them as well. Now they are a trailing habit. They can tend to get a lot larger and a lot bigger than, say, a black sat, which was the upright type. Pruning on a trailing type, probably best because maybe a trellis or a fence would probably work a little better because they just do get larger. By midsummer, no later, once again, prune back. Hopefully you've gotten 6+ feet of growth on it. Prune it back down to about 6 to 8 feet. That's what you want to do. These shortened canes will produce side shoots for the rest of the growing season. And once again, just like you did the upright type, prune those back to about 1 foot during the dormant season when they're dormant. And that's going to be a lot of your fruiting wood. And same thing, once they're done blooming in the summer or producing, pick your fruit, cut them back down, cultivate the new canes coming up, about 10 canes. And that's going to be your next year's fruit, and just keep doing that on a yearly basis. But once again, if you don't prune, don't want to prune, or you forget, you skip a year, skip a season, don't worry, you're still going to get fruit. I'll say pruning, what it's for is keeping your berry patch down to a manageable size and increasing the quality of the fruit that you're going to get. Any other comments on blackberries?
I think it can be complicated. Bottom line, I grow a lot of berries. I love berries. I had so many berries last year because of the rain. It was almost ridiculous. I couldn't use them all. It was crazy. Raspberries and blackberries. Food. They're heavy feeders. And so I try to fertilize mine every other or every third month. That seems to be enough to get them to go. I do actually put the soil sulfur on everything.
Yeah,
I find
doesn't hurt. Yeah.
the acidity, soil sulfur seems to bring the flavor out more, so making it more acidic is more flavorful. The only thing I really do, because I've got it on a fence line, up and down the entire property line, basically, is all brambles and grapes, basically. I just keep them under control, because they'll take over. I mean, small dogs, children have been lost in bramble patches. I mean, it is ridiculous how much they grow. And so I'm looking to cut. And so I'm looking to cut last year's producer. And I just take it right back to the ground. And that's really, I don't go so far as to go 2-3 times a year to prune. I'm barely there for once a year. I just try to prune it once in the winter, that cane, and I'll put a little flagging tape on it and go, that one was producing like crazy last year. I cut it right back to the ground. And with that, it seems to keep it back enough for me. I don't mind it coming out a little bit from the fence. I just don't want it to take over the whole half of the yard. So I keep it back that way. My raspberries and the trailing ones, I do put a trellis on the fence. I just leaned one of those iron trellises. I just put those up against the fence and I trail it up there. Helps. My black satin, I grow a lot of those, the upright varieties.
Yeah.
That one is so sturdy that it tends to it holds the trellis up. I mean, it's pretty substantial canes, and it is more upright, a little less hands-on with that particular variety. That's just this gardener's kind of personal experience. This is super valuable, Jim. I'm learning a lot with this. It's great.
It's kind of I brought out the pruning part is because a lot of people think, well, I don't have a room to do berries.
Yeah.
They think it takes a lot of room, but as you can tell, it really doesn't take that much room to do blueberries if you prune them, this way. And if you have the room to do like what Ken is doing, like I say, go for it. You're still going to get berries, plenty of berries, and he has the room for it. So they're very adaptable to.
Do you need a pollinator for the blackberries?
Oh, very good questions. Yes, do you need a pollinator? You do not need a pollinator for the raspberries or the blackberries. No pollinator needed. Thank you. Good question. It doesn't hurt to mulch them. It's I would say the raspberries, it's more of a requirement that I would highly recommend for the raspberries. The blackberries, it's not as imperative, but it's definitely a good thing to do. If nothing else, is for keep more moisture in during the season.
For me, I use shredded bark every year. I'll shred the roots with that real pretty cedar bark. Cedar keeps the bugs off, and then it insulates the roots, and I find it only helps. And I've got mine in raised beds. They're kind of pseudo-raised beds. The drainage is good. So with my berries, and it tends to put off more runners. It tends to be happier if you give it more organics. It seems to help. So it depends on where you're at, but most of our soils are really bad. And so more mulch is kind of, compost is better. And I do add a little bit every year. It seems to make them, it can't hurt.
Nope, can't hurt.
It can only help. It's kind of thing. But my raspberries definitely need it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions on berries? Or the blackberries, raspberries? Yes, ma'am?
What about birds? Do you have to net any of this to keep the birds
Oh,
down?
don't you want to share?
Well, I don't want to lose the whole crop.
Yeah, especially if you probably are really trying to keep your berry patch smaller, and you may not want to share as much. I would definitely recommend some type of netting or something. If you have a big fence or something, it's maybe impractical and you have enough to share maybe. So yeah, just however you want to do it.
I find
maybe
mine,
you don't even like blackberries, want to attract birds. Well then.
I do have some berries in the lower part of the yard because I like to attract birds. So I've got a grapevine that's just for them. It produces really heavy. I just leave it for them because I want to bring the birds in. I don't know if it actually detracts from my other ones, but they seem to leave my other berries and stuff alone. And I've got a berry patch down there just for them so they can roost, and I let it grow a little more aggressively down there. What I find is if they're really if you're fertilizing them enough, they produce so many berries. It's ridiculous, really. It's like hundreds and hundreds of berries that the birds can't eat them all. So there's plenty to share. I don't net mine. They get a few of them, but I don't net them, and they seem to do okay. Now, if you're in a flock of whatever, you got pigeons every place. Maybe you might need to. But if it becomes a problem, we've got netting. It's really easy to net berries. So I don't find the birds are as problematic as my cherries. Now my cherries, they love my cherries. So I use that bird tape, the reflective tape. I use that, and it seems to keep them off because the tree's big enough. I don't want to net it. So anyway, that's my experience with the birds local. And I'm just like 2-3 miles just this way. I'm right here. So.
And then next we'll move on to blueberries.
Yeah.
Yes, you can also grow blueberries here. A lot of people think of them as something in the Northeast or very northern climates. There's some new varieties out. These are called southern highbush blueberries, and they're actually growing these well in parts of Florida and California as well because they seem to take the heat better and don't require as much chill. We get enough chill here for them, that's fine. Blueberries, you definitely want to acidify your soil for them. So I highly recommend probably a raised bed or a container where you can kind of manipulate the soil and turn it into more of a good acidic soil situation for them versus if you just plant it in the ground, take a whole lot of mulching to do that. So I really recommend raised garden or containers for blueberries. Now blueberries they self-pollinate to an extent by themselves. You don't have to have a pollinator, but I highly recommend for much better fruit production that you get a pollinizer. So that's just another variety. This one's called Bountiful Blue. There's Sunshine. There's several others that you can use. They carry 3 or 4 varieties here. Any of them will pollinate each other. So, but as you can see, I mean, this is grown in Visalia in the Central Valley of California, and it's very heavy producer of fruit, the Bountiful Blue here. And it's another one that when they're ripe, I kind of sneak them up here, Ken, sorry. Yeah. And they taste very delicious.
What was that type?
What's that?
What was that type of berry?
Blueberry, this one's called Bountiful Blue.
Like what a pollinizer is?
What's that?
A pollinizer. What's a pollinizer?
The question is, what's a pollinizer? In most cases, pollinizer, people think of 2 things: an insect or something that will pollinize a plant. But in this case, we're talking about another plant. In this case, another blueberry like Sunshine or Misty. It's another variety of blueberry. It blooms at the same time, fruits at the same time, and you need that plant for bees to go to that plant, to the other plant, back and forth to get your best fruit production that will pollinize the flowers to create fruit. Well,
I mean, bottom line, it's the birds and the bees, male and female. You can't, a bountiful blue will not pollinate a bountiful blue. You need to have a jelly bean or a sunshine cross-pollinate, something different. This really plays out with apples, pears, some of your fruiting trees. They really need pollinators.
they have to.
But some of your blueberries also benefit. Now, it has been my experience, it will produce fruit by itself, all alone. But it produces much, much heavier if you have a cousin with it. And that's what pollination is. And your bees and your moths, your beneficial insects, they take pollen from one and go over here and they pollinate it while it's in bloom. So you get better, larger berries and more berries. And that's pollination in a nutshell.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go. Birds and bees.
And then as far as pruning blueberries, it's not very complicated at all. It's all you're doing is every year taking a look at it, maybe while it's dormant. If you notice dead wood or when it's coming out of dormancy, if you notice some weak wood that's not looking real good or that's dead, You just prune that out. Anything that's probably looking real woody, prune it out so it causes more growth to happen. So that's all there really is as far as pruning blueberries. It's just kind of culling out the weak stems and stuff like that. That's all you have to do with blueberries. So they're very easy as far as maintenance, etc. And like I say, mainly when you're fertilizing, you want to use a good acidic-based fertilizer. I'd highly recommend organic fertilizer as well. Ken can kind of go over what he has that would work for that, for the berries. Any other questions on the blueberries? Grapes. Now grapes like a lot of sun, and they like a lot of heat, preferably. You know, we're not in a real hot climate here by any means, so the sunniest, hottest spot you can put a grape here, the better off you are, the better the grape will do. So if you live up in the pines where it's shady, you know, search out the sunniest spot you have there that's going to get the most sun for best success. And if you have a hot area that you're not sure what to do something with, a hot reflective wall area, put a grape there. It'll do great. Grapes do great down in Phoenix. I cover Phoenix, Tucson, and I've seen some wonderful grapevines down there in some of the garden centers that they have planted there. So they don't mind that over 105, 110 degree heat doesn't bother them at all. So the sunniest, hottest spot you have here, the better they like it. Now grapes, you're going to prune out. But once again, it's not. You can let a grape go, and you will still get grapes because I see it. You know, some of the arbors that the garden centers planted down in Tucson. A customer has a beautiful, big, huge sabanos, and they don't do anything with it. They get a good production of grapes with it, but it's very big. They have a lot of room for it. But so generally, though, grapes, you know, like the grape growers, the wine growers, etc., they're basically pruning out 70 to 90% of the wood every year, and there's different styles of pruning. So once again, you don't have to have a large area to have grapes. You can have a very small, manageable area, probably no more than 6 to 8 feet wide, and you can. That's all you really need to get a good production of grapes. There's basically two types. There's European grapes and there's American grapes. European is like your Thompson seedless, which we're all familiar with, flame seedless, ruby seedless. Then there's American varieties, which have more lineage to Native America here. They're very, very, very cold hardy. So if you live higher up in the hills or something, where it's definitely colder, where you're getting down to single digits a lot in the winter or below zero, you're probably going to be better off going with an American variety like the Catawba, Concord, Delaware. Those varieties would be better if you're in a really cold area. If you're just in town here in Prescott Valley, Chima Valley, you can use either one. It doesn't matter, any of these types here. The flame seedless, the varieties here, Thompson seedless, we're all familiar with that. I think it's a white grape, very consistent in its taste, production, and it's seedless, which we all like. And then you have your flame seedless, which is a red grape. It's seedless as well. It's a cane. Well, we kind of just back up here on pruning. I'm not going to go into the pruning of grapes really. There's a lot of great information on the internet. If you want to do the correct pruning, cane pruning or spur pruning, I put down the type of pruning you would do on these different varieties if you choose to. But like I say, if you don't want to prune, you can let them go and you will still get plenty of grapes. But if you want to keep it smaller, more manageable, get better quality of grapes as far as size, etc., you do want to practice the correct pruning, cane pruning or spur pruning, depending on the variety that you would get. Ruby seedless, it's a cane or spur. You can do it either way. It's a good sweet dessert grape. Requires less heat than flame. So if you want a red seedless grape, a little bit higher area, maybe go with the ruby. It doesn't require as much heat as say the flame does, the flame seedless. The American varieties, Catawba, good for juice, wines, jams. Concord, I think we're all familiar with that. It's what they call slip skin. The skin's not really very palatable or edible because it's kind of tough, but you just kind of squeeze it out in your mouth. And to me, Concord's one of the best tasting grapes. I love them. A little more work eating them, but I love them, the flavor of them. Delaware is known for being a very sweet grape. It also can be used for wines. Himrod is seedless, the white grape, seedless. So very comparable to like the Thompson seedless for colder climates. Nagara is another seedless one, a white grape. Any other comments on grapes?
Could you explain, there's more and more vineyards going in.
Yeah.
Would you mind touching base on the Merlots, Cabernets, Chardonnay, all the wine grapes?
Okay.
Kind of, what's the difference? And if I want to bottle my own wine, how would I do that?
I wouldn't know how to bottle my
I'm a
own
brewer
wine.
myself, but
Yeah, there are some wine grapes coming out now. About 5 years ago, it was hard to find wine grapes in the garden centers. But starting about 5 years ago, us growers started producing wine grapes, to sell to the nurseries, the retail nurseries for the public, because there's just such a more of a demand for a lot of people doing a lot more home edible stuff, and even making their own wine, etc. I think a gentleman used to work here, Tony. I think he used to grow his own.
Big time.
He used to grow his own grapes and make wine with them, and he lived here. So, but yeah, we do a Chardonnay, we do a Merlot, we do a Pinot Noir grape, and these are grapes that if you're wanting a Merlot grape, the one that's called Merlot is a grape that you would plant that's going to actually give you probably the best grape for producing a Merlot or Pinot Noir, whatever you're producing. The wine grapes aren't quite as cold hardy, so these here. So if you're up high in the pines, it probably won't work as well. But if you're kind of down here lower, or like Prescott and so forth, they do quite well. And they do love that summer heat, though. So a good hot area is the best for wine grapes to get that sugar in the grape, etc. No, they do not need a pollinator. Good question. Once again, the grapes, any of the grapes, they don't need a pollinator. They produce very well on their own merits.
Can you explain spur pruning?
Yeah, I will just briefly, because it's pretty, not that it's hard, but there's a lot of great information on the internet. You just Google spur pruning, cane pruning. There's lots of great diagrams, etc. You can there's even great videos on how to do it. But basically, just in a nutshell, spur pruning, you're letting the canes go out further, maybe 4, 5, 6 feet, and there's little spurs in about every 6 inches. You keep those little nubs, they're called spurs, that come up, and you cut those down to about 2 fruiting buds, and that's where your fruit comes out of. So it's trained along like that, and you have these little spurs about every 6 inches. And there's a lot of different methods. Some have upright spurs, some prune them down, and there's all these fancy French names for this type of pruning. So it's not that it's complicated, but and then cane pruning is you're not so much having you're not having the canes go out so far. You're pruning closer to the trunk, and you have spurs from there come out, and so the plant's actually kept quite a bit smaller. So, like I say, go to the internet. There's a lot of fabulous information on pruning grapes on the internet.
Can I touch on that real quick?
Yeah.
My philosophy on pruning with my grapes, because grapes are one, they can put on 15 foot of growth a year. It's crazy. They just start growing. For me, I want beauty first. It's got to be a pretty landscape. Then it's production, is how I look at it. So I do it differently. You'll get a lot of ag information or vineyard information. It's all about production. I think you can have pretty and grapes. What I do, I've got a 6 foot cedar fence. I got a trellis. I have a grape at the bottom of it. I plant it. I let it go to the top of the fence. I let it T-post out either way. But it's not quite pretty enough for me at that point. Then I just let it trail over the fence. It's really nice. I do a double T-post. This is not on the internet. This is just because I think it looks better. I think you can have that freedom. I have a double T halfway through about the 3 foot mark, 3-4 foot. I just let it tee off there and let it run, and then I have it at the top of the fence and run. And we have so many grapes. It's just, my grandson and I went out last year They call him Garden Guy Junior. And so we went out and we ate every grape on that thing before we were done. It was just, we were gorged with Niagara seeds. And that's all we do. I've grown it over a pergola, over a covered deck. It was a 1.5 story high deck and had a covered lattice work. I just planted a grape at each post, trained it to go to the top, go over the edge because I wanted the shade in the summer, and I just let it go. Now there's no technical aspect to that. I just wanted the shade, and I still had lots of grapes. I think there's a lot of fudge factor with grapes. The main thing I've noticed, they take a little more consistent watering, so more than maybe some of the others, or they like a lot of mulch, a lot of insulative. They just like a top dressing, and they really are heavy on the food and the heat. So if it's more sun, the better. Food and the insulation of the mulch seems to be the ticket in my gardens, and I've grown them throughout the county. That seems to be the secret sauce to make them really go.
Once the berries start producing, you'll see the little berries there. They're very tiny. You definitely want to pour on the water from there on till you harvest, because that'll definitely give you good fruit. Now, if you're, like I mentioned before, as like Ken said, you don't have to do anything with them, and you'll get fruit. Not a problem. The pruning is just basically to keep the plant smaller if you need to, and to increase the quality of. Let's face it, you have a big grapevine that's 10, 15 feet. You'll never eat all the grapes, I guarantee you. You want to be able to give them all away, probably.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people are more like, well, let's just do the cane pruning, spur pruning, not get as many, but get a good quality. Now, if you're growing for wine, and that's your intent, you definitely want to do the proper pruning, because you're going to definitely increase the quality of that grape, and you want that for wine. So, good grapes make good wine, not so good grapes make wine like I make. So,
I do notice if you go on that cruise to the Panama Canal and you come back and the irrigation went off or got crazy hot, and it was fruiting at that time, you got to be a little more exact at that point. The grapes will be a little smaller. You'll still have grapes. It'll rob from the fruit to keep the foliage going. It seems to be something there. So you do want to be consistent at that point of how you water things once the fruit has started to form. And then 7 bottles per vine. And that's a friend of mine owns Painted Lady Vineyard down in Skull Valley. She gets 7 bottles per vine. So if you just want to do the math, you can do it from there.
And a lot of times, I even tell people, you want a pretty looking vine, they're not even worried about fruit, they're not even thinking about getting the benefit of fruit. Plant a grapevine. Like Ken said, it's just a beautiful summer vine, lush, almost tropical looking to it. So the added benefit is you get fruit out of it, which is nice, and they grow so easy here.
Ken, is there any kind of rule of thumb as to how much these things need watering, or when?
We'll cover that next. I'll go over that at the end when you're all done.
Okay.
So right here.
What about pruning in the wintertime? Is there a dormancy?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how much?
Yeah, that's the grapes, the berries, that's when you're going to do a lot of your pruning is during the dormant season. And like I say, if the grapes, if you want to prune, you go with the cane or spur method depending on the variety you have. And you'll see when you kind of look into it, you're going to, like I say, growers, they prune back 70 to 90% of the plant gets pruned back every year. So a great
January
spring
through March. Whack on it.
Yeah.
I mean, hard. Just really get it back, or it will take over.
Yeah.
It'll be the whole yard. It'll be nothing but grapes. So really whack on it.
Now, can I use my woodworking shop sawdust and shavings for mulch?
Top dressing, not planting, I would think, but top dressing would be fine. Yeah. Oh, yeah, good. He's got a wood shop, and so he wants to know, can he use the sawdust he uses? He's a hardcore woodworker. Can he use that as a top dressing? I think he'd be fine.
Yeah, as long as the wood is not treated with any chemicals or anything like that, I would say yeah. And like Ken said, just as a top mulch, you don't want to actually apply it into the soil. It takes nitrogen to compost wood shavings, so you'd be actually taking nitrogen out of your soil. But as a top mulch, fine.
Okay, continue, because we could go with because you got
2 minutes? Okay.
yeah, you're getting
Real quick. Well, this is easy. So fig trees. Yes, you can grow fig trees in Prescott, not just California. We do get cold enough sometimes where, fig trees can actually get big, 15, 25 feet tall, but we have natural pruning here. It's called winter. Winter like this winter, you would have no dieback on a fig tree. My neighbor has one. I would live out in Williamson Valley. He has one, and it's just kind of maintains a height of about 5-6 feet. Sometimes we got below zero a few years ago. About half of it kind of died back. No big deal, because when figs come back, they grow with a vengeance. And not only are figs are great ornamental looking plants, very that tropical look to them. They love heat. They can take a fair amount of drought actually. They grow wonderful down in Phoenix and Tucson, so that gives you an idea how much heat they can take. But if you want to grow a fig, put it on the hottest part of the yard you have, because they love that heat, and preferably probably a south-facing wall. It'll be a little bit warmer in the winter, just in case we do have a cold winter. We'll just be getting a little more of that south sun, radiant heat coming off the ground during the night because it's warmed up more during the day. We'll have more success with the fig that way. However, like I say, if we do get a cold winter and part of it dies back, the stems doesn't take a whole lot of cold, they will die back. But that's not a big deal. It's not a problem. My neighbor's fig, even if it's died back down, it puts out that new growth. He pretty much gets figs every year on it, even if it grows back a little bit. So you can have figs here. Just put them in the hottest, sunniest spot you have, and they will love it. You got a hot, reflected wall with rock down there that's just 120 degrees in the summer. Put a fig there. It'll love it.
I do grow figs in pots.
Yeah, you do that.
I wanted a tropical look. I love container garden, can you tell? I have a lot of container gardens. It's a pot about this big, about that deep. It's jade green. I wanted that Mediterranean look. I was creating, it's the artistic factor. I put a fig. I've had brown turkeys, the golds, any of your figs. And then I put creeping thyme around the edge that I use in the kitchen. It just has creeping thyme coming over with the fig. It just screams, look at me. And it's been in that pot for 4 or 5 years. It went through that 0 degrees weather in the pot. I did know it was going to go sub-zero, so I did pull the pot next to the house, but I didn't bring it in. I didn't cover it. I just said the house, it either lives or dies. Kind of go, I'm a garden center, I'll plant another one. And it lived. It did fine. It didn't even self-prune. It just came back.
Really?
The house was enough to kind of keep it coming back, and it does produce very, very heavy. Now, where I grow it, it is out there on a patio, where it does get reflective heat from the block. So I think it stays. I think it's happy where that warmth is. It's just really happy there.
No, they can do quite well here.
Yeah.
Next one is pomegranate, which I didn't bring a sample up, but you can do pomegranates here as well. If you want best success for having a pomegranate, once again, is the hottest spot you can in your yard, the most sun, that hot reflected part of your yard that's getting reflected heat off the ground, rocks, the wall, whatever. That's going to be the best place for a pomegranate. Some people, if you want to get good fruit production, like I say, you got to have good heat for them. So it's something that's not a guarantee here you're going to get fruit with. It's an attractive plant, but if you can find a good hot spot for a pomegranate, you will have success with it here. And they're very adaptable to soil. You don't have to do anything with them. You don't have to prune them. It's a very easy plant to grow as far as adaptability to our soil conditions. Once they're established, they're actually fairly drought tolerant too. If you do get fruit on them, once again, and same with the figs, kind of as soon as you start seeing that fruit appear, kind of step up the water a bit for them. They'll definitely appreciate that. It'll help the quality of your fruit taste a lot better as well. Pomegranate, as far as fertilizer, probably good 2 or 3 times a year. Same with the fig, kind of just before spring really happens, maybe just before they start to come out of dormancy. I like to recommend fertilizing then, and you can hit them again in early summer, June or so, like that. With a good all-purpose fertilizer works well.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. I like to hit my plants, my edibles especially, because they're heavy. They need steak and potatoes. They don't want any of this miracle grow stuff. They want hardcore, like, fertilizers. So I use the 744 all-purpose we put together for here. I like to hit it with these edibles. Seems like a really critical time. I mean, spring, obviously, when they're waking up, they're hungry. But if you can hit them with food right as the monsoons hit, the end of June, first part of July, That seems to really make a difference with my production, the growth, the number of foliage. So that seems to be a really important one. And I think with any edible, the most important feeding of the year, bar none, is fall. Make sure you fertilize, fall fertilize. That's whether it's a fruit tree, a fig, because it's going to take that food and store that in the root structure and use that. That's what it's using right now to flush a new growth of spring. So this benefit as a monsoon's hit. You'll see a big benefit. The food, here's the food. The all-purpose plant food. This is cottonseed meal, which is very acidic. And then it's got bird guano and fairy dust and other stuff in it. But it's something we put together for here. It seems to do really, really well for edibles, actually for the yard. But the organics, the beauty with organics, they release and break down very, very slowly. And so for edibles, every time you water or every time it rains, it's going to release a little bit of food each time. That's really critical with edibles, especially locally. I would say stay away from synthetics. First of all, I don't like the petroleum-based products on my edibles. It just doesn't, I don't know, it just seems like organics are better when you eat the stuff. And then I do, every spring, I do put soil sulfur. Looks like, in fact, a couple weeks ago, I just put soil sulfur on the entire yard. I got the big bag and I just slung it every place. But I make sure I put this on my edibles, the trees, the grapes, the berries, the brambles, all that. This makes things acidic. And so the water, I just tested. I took our commercial grade water pH tester, tested the water out of the sink at my house, City of Prescott water, it's 9.0, which means yours is 9.02, which means your soil will take on whatever your water is. It'll equalize to whatever that is. Now, that fluxes depending on which well the city is using. It can vary, and I notice it varies as I test it. But the soil sulfur counteracts that and brings it down the 8s, 7.9, high 7s to low 8s, seems to get it there, which is good enough for your fruits. Brings the flavor out, the flower size, the fruit size. There's a lot of benefit to your pH. If you don't do this, what will happen is your new growth will start to turn yellow about June. And then you'll come in and talk to us going, I need iron, I need iron. And we'll sell boatloads of iron. But really, if you'd simply put soil sulfur down in the spring when you're fertilizing, you would have benefited. It would not have turned yellow on your plants. And that's really all I do. I don't use any liquids on my edibles. I just use the all-purpose and the soil sulfur, and then that's it. And I do it more frequently. Yeah, I do it at least 3 times a year. My grapes, I do even a 4th time, just because I notice the grapes, they just require, in my gardens, they require just a little more food. So the all-purpose, I'm real consistent with, but, and that goes for everything in the yard, really.
Really with the soil sulfur, when you're reducing your pH, that fertilizer, the nutrients are there. It's just a lot of times, if the pH is too high, it prevents a lot of those nutrients, especially the micronutrients, from being able to be taken up by the plant. So if you can reduce that pH down a little bit, you don't obviously want it real acidic, but just like Ken said, this reduces it enough and it helps release those micronutrients and fertilizers to be taken up into the plants much more readily. And that's what is the benefit of doing using sulfur a lot.
We put quite a bit of that sulfur and iron in our natural mix that we make, but it's just not quite enough. So I put that additional every spring. I just sling it and it looks like little tiny sulfur pellets. You just kind of sling it around. I do not work it in. I am the laziest gardener you will ever meet. I just chuck and go. And I expect rain to do the work. And the next question will come up, yeah, but my drip emitter is right there at the base. I don't care about drip emitters in my own yard. Everything is drip irrigated. Rain, we get 19 inches of rain a year, 100-year average, which means some years we get 25 inches, some years we only get 15. But the 100-year average is 19. That's a lot of rain. So eventually moisture is going to come and release that and get it into the soil for me. I'll get a little benefit from the drip, but I don't think in terms of where's the drip emitter with my foods. I think in terms of root mass. Where are the roots at? And I try to put them there. And I think that's a good practice for just about everything. Can we mention deer, javelina, rabbits, that kind of stuff? If you're in the wildland interface where you kind of have this forest effect, like the vermin are taking over. Pack rats. I have troubles with pack rats. Well, first of all, rats, they deserve to die. Kill them. Okay, enough said. Everything else, move on. Deer and rabbits, you can't technically do that except if you have the right tag at the right season, then you can, and not within the city boundaries. But if you're planting where you've got a lot of deer and rabbit activity, they notice what you plant. They're looking. They're there at night watching you with binoculars going, oh, there's something new. I wonder what that is. If you've got a lot of activity with animals, spray it right away with Repelzol or a repellent of some sort. That way they'll come in because they're going to come nibble at going, I wonder what it is. Hey, Joe, over here, something new. Let's go check this one out. If it smells and tastes like this, they know, oh yeah, that's right. We don't want this is the nasty yard. And so just be upfront with this. Don't let them taste it up ahead of time before you spray it, just right off the bat. If you've got a lot of deer activity, you should just have this in your garden shed anyway, in the garage. Bugs. I wanted to mention apples and pears are starting to bloom, or they will be momentarily. This is off subject a little bit, just because it is so timely, and this is my edible, folks. More than likely, you're going to have some fruit trees. Put codling moth traps up in your trees now. Codling moths are the one, they'll lay an egg on the fruit, and that's the worm that gets in your fruit. I would love to sell you a spray where you have to be committed every 2 weeks, use our magic spray stuff, but I don't think we have to spray that much. I think we can just use this as a monitoring system. So you hang this up on your tree and you just look at it, inside it, it's got a pheromone that attracts them. And when you see those little tiny moths, it's just a tiny little thing. When you see them sort of being stuck to the inside, it's kind of like, okay, that's when you know, oh, okay, they're actively laying eggs on my fruit tree. Now is the time to spray. The number one spray I use, Captain Jack's Dead Bug Brew. I know it's a goofy name, but you don't forget it. But it's a good organic. This is actually an organic spray, so it's very safe. It's not going to hurt your birds. It's not going to, but it does take out the worms. It takes out the grape leaf skeletonizer, things that get onto fruiting plants. This is the one that I use on my fruiting plants because it's organic. Again, I try to go organic whenever possible. First, the way this gardener thinks about it, it has to work first. Then I try to go organic whenever possible. So if the ground is moving with grasshoppers and like it's like biblical proportions, I'm breaking out the big guns. But other than that, I try to go organic as best I can. This is a great organic for most of those. This wipes out codling moth. I mean, just obliterates them. So it's a good organic and I would put that codling moth trap on my pears, my apples. Because that worm, they like both of the taste of both of those. I don't worry about my pitted fruits, cherries, apricots, nectarines, all those, plums. And then tomatoes, yeah, kind of hold that up. Can you show some leg while you're doing that? Anyway, if you're planting tomatoes, you all are starting to be tempted, because I'm starting to be tempted. I don't have very many tomatoes here right now. Have you noticed? It's still only March. Average frost date is May 8th, Mother's Day, basically. So if you're going to be tempted, you newbies, half the group was like new. If you're going to be tempted to plant tomatoes, and I hope you do, because you'll have to replace them. You have to come back and buy another one. But I'd rather, for my friends, I'd rather have you wait, because we will get another cold zip. Something will happen where a storm front will come and a frost will come and it'll take those things out. Your basils, be really careful. We'll start bringing in tomatoes next week. There'll be the initial load in a crescendo up until about middle of May. That's when it's just so many tomatoes. Places they're crawling in tomatoes and every other kind of fruit. We'll have our first initial crop coming in next week. If you're going to plant in the month of April, make sure you use those plant starters. And I will plant early, and I put them in these. So again, we'll have a whole class on tomatoes and early vegetables. We'll push this hard This is like a wall of water. Have you heard of those? Little tubes that you fill up. It creates a little teepee of a water-filled teepee around your plants, and it keeps the frost off. I've literally had tomatoes growing out of these, and it snowed on them, and they lived, kept producing. The reason I start so early, I've got a radio show. I got bragging rights, right? I just picked my first tomato. It was so good. How are you doing on your tomatoes? And it's that guilt thing. There's this pride thing with gardeners, you know? So I kind of plant a few of them early, and I use these. And you can use them year after year. Some of mine are really skanky, kind of filled with algae and all kinds of stuff, but I use them every year. And then it is okay to plant rhubarb. I'll get you that handout. It's okay to plant asparagus. I'll get you, I might have a handout on that too. I'll see if I can attach that, get you that as well. I'll have to remember where that is.
I just noticed in my garden yesterday, and it just caught me off guard. I got asparagus.
That's mine. Mine's up about that tall too.
Already? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's good. That's good. You can start picking it.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
if you plant it now, in 2 years, you don't plant. It's the second year you start to harvest asparagus, rhubarb, some of those things. But you plant them now so that you can have some next year. And then potatoes, all that, garlics, onions, all that's down the store. You can plant all that right now. In fact, all this stuff you can plant right now and it'd be just fine. Should we go over how to plant real quick? How are we doing on time? We're right at the mark. But I think we should go over how to plant.
Okay.
And really, and I'll use this grape because I picked one that I would sort of choose. The planting technique is the same for all of them. You're going to plant as deep as the bucket. Don't go down to China. These kind of plants we're talking about today, all the roots go sideways. They do not go down. They don't have a taproot. They all go sideways. If you know that's how they're naturally going to grow, dig the hole 3 times as wide and round. Give it room to spread out. So the same depth, 3 times as wide, and you want to amend that soil pretty heavy with the Waters Premium Mulch or a compost. If you're a composter, lots of compost. Generally, I say about 25% mulch to your native earth. That's about 1 shovel's worth of mulch for every 3 shovels worth of native soil. I actually skew it a little bit heavier on my edibles. So I think you could be a little more generous. I wouldn't go over half mulch to your native earth, but I think you can be a little more generous, especially some of you have, basically you don't have soil, you have rock. And you're going to start digging and you need to fill in a little bit more because you have so many rocks, or that iceberg effect. It looked like a rock this big, but by the time you got done, it was like this boulder. You need to fill in a little more. You can be a little more generous. I wouldn't go over half. It's got to get used to that native earth eventually. And I'll blend that soil together and then backfill around this plant. I'll take the all-purpose plant food, and I'll sprinkle the recommended amount that's on the package. I'll sprinkle that on top, and then I'll water it in. Yeah, there we go, with the root and grow. That's a rooting hormone. So it starts to get roots. The more roots you get on this plant, the faster, the more your production's going to be. But literally, if you planted this grape this year, you can have grapes this year on it.
Got some now.
Oh, look at that. That's pretty awesome. Okay, so it does actually have little fruit, little grape clusters on it. So all of our plants we sell here, we are of fruiting age. We purposely bring in more mature plants. They're a year or 2 older. The fruit trees are 3 or 4 years older because we figure our customers, they're not wanting to plant now for 3 years from now getting apples. They want now. And so we purposely bring in older trees. I brought this one as an example because grapes are one of the only plants. Don't do this with your berries, but grapes. I picked one that I would kind of look at. You notice the tall graft here? I would actually plant this about that deep, really deep. Grapes are one of the only plants that will actually root from that side shoot, from the cane. So the deeper I go, the more water resistant they are because they have more soil, and I'll get a larger root mass faster. So I actually look for a tall, leggy grape, personally. I don't like the graft right there at the ground. I like to see tall, leggy, so I can purposely plant it deeper. Now, some of you don't have this much soil, but those of you that do, look for this kind of shoot. Whatever. Don't do that with your berries or they will die to the berry. They're really sensitive with berries, blackberries, raspberries, boysenberries, all those guys. If you even get a little bit of soil on top of that cane, it'll die off. It's really sensitive. So leave that exposed. But grapes, it's a good technique for them to get them to grow. And that's it. That's three things: mulch, food, the root and grow. Always three things when you're planting these edible kind of stuff.
What about
I think
watering?
watering. Look on the back of that business card. Do I have one of those? Look on the back of the card. Away from my pretty face. Okay. Look the other side. This is made to tape inside your irrigation box as a reminder. You'll notice established plants. A lot of us have already established plants. Those things have been rooted out for a year. You're looking at once a week watering. This is a hard concept for you folks from the Northwest, okay? We don't have rain every day. We don't have drainage. We have heavy clay soils and caliche. You've never heard the word caliche until you got to here. But our soils are just, they're heavy. And so these plants need to breathe in between water cycles. This is important. And so you want to water a lot and then let it dry out. This is important. So once a week watering. If you're on a drip system, you're probably watering for 2-3 hours at a shot. So you need to think, you Californians, this is hard for you Californians. This 15-minute water stuff, this is no good for a drip irrigation system. Because typically they're a 1 gallon per hour emitter. If you run it for 15 minutes, how much water have you put on it? A quart. That's like spitting on a plant. You need to have it run for hours, not minutes, with a drip system. Now, if you've got bubblers that are traditional in California, or you're hand watering, that's a little different. If you're hand watering, visually, if you could think, 1 inch of water, let's say you have your water basin, you put 1 inch of water, will penetrate 6 inches of soil. So 1 to 6. So if you've got a tree that's 2 feet deep, so you need to get maybe 2-3 inches of water for it to penetrate that entire root mass in the soil. There's some soil variations. If it's sandy soil, it goes a little deeper. If it's sandy soil, a little shallower. But in general, the book says 1 inch of water, 6 inches of soil. Okay. So if it's brand new plants, like I have a lot of established plants, but I'm always planting new things. What I do is I put them on the drip system. I'll let the drip handle one of those waterings, and then I'll hand water the extra watering. So it says twice a week watering for brand new plants, because the roots haven't extended out in the surrounding soil yet. It takes a year to do that. So that's a good technique for most of your bigger shrubs, trees, vines, brambles. That's a good technique. And then it's got others for lawns. It's got flowers, herbs, that kind of stuff on the back of that. This will at least get you where you're making mistakes in the right direction, okay? And you'll notice the backyard's different than the front yard. You'll see there's a little bit different garden pattern on how you water things. And that's where the gardener's got to come in and kind of tweak it back and forth and play with it some. But the plants will talk to you. Grapes get real weepy. They'll let you know when they're thirsty. Go, oh, okay, I went 5 days. I need to go every 4 days. Just don't overwater. If you're prone to overwater, they'll drop their fruits. If they can't breathe in between those water cycles, they'll shed some of their fruits. That goes for trees as well. Anything else you want to touch on?
Yeah, just on the new plantings, this is really important, I feel, is, do like your grandma used to do, make a well around your plant there. Roots go where water is. And a new planting, the most important thing you want to accomplish is to get those roots to grow into the parent soil. That's the most important thing you want to accomplish. So if you're only watering on that root ball or right next to it, and it's a dry part of the year, those roots aren't expanding beyond there. They have no desire to, because you're supplying the water right there. Those roots want to grow out, believe me, but they need water. They want to search out the water. So make a well. Even if you can still keep your drip irrigation on, because a new planting, I think most people err on not enough water on a new planting. So don't worry about it. But make a nice well that goes out beyond the root ball into what I call the parent soil a little ways. And you hand water as a supplement to the drip irrigation. If you fill that up with a couple inches of water, maybe a couple times a week if it's May or June when it's hot and windy. And that will get that parent soil saturated well and moist all the time. Won't be too wet, but you keep it nice and moist, and those roots will grow out into that parent soil. And once they've done that, it's a home run there, because when you start getting natural rain, there's a lot of moisture in that soil, and those roots have a lot of moisture to take up, and they're just a lot more drought resistant at that point. And you can take a lot of plant that's not, quote, considered hardcore drought tolerant, but with proper watering techniques, which is another class, you can make it a fairly drought tolerant plant that won't require that
I
much
do
water.
use the root and grow every 2 weeks until I see the plant stabilized. And you'll know because it'll set new flowers, you see new leaf growth, and then I cut it off of this. But I'll use it every other week until I see the plant obviously starting to take, and then I cut it off of this. And then this is, again, you're gonna break some roots when you put this thing into the ground. Where that root break was, it'll send off multiple root hairs. This encourages more roots to go into that surrounding soil. That's kind of how I do that. Then at that point, when the roots are coming out, your food starts to really kick in, makes it go. The cycle is, you're gonna plant now, the plants will grow like crazy through May, and then our hardest month to grow things here, absolute hardest month, June. You don't want plants to grow in June. You just want them to live. They can look terrible, they can suffer, they get weepy, they're gonna get whiny, they're get so hot and dry and windy, they're gonna talk to you, but then the monsoons come and they just ignite with new growth. And that's when I usually fertilize, right then when the monsoons come, and all of a sudden they'll have whole new set of growth, all new leaves, all another set of flowers. And they just go crazy from that point right through fall. So don't worry if you get a few brown leaves in the month of June, you will. Just get them to get through. The monsoons come, the humidity goes up, the cloud cover comes over, and the plants, you can see them physically take a breather going, oh, finally, I was so hot. Now I see a couple things, artichoke, and I see a gooseberry. You didn't cut it, I mean, I know they're old fashioned, but you should touch on those before we release.
Yeah, gooseberries, it's another edible berry you can plant here. This one is called Pixiewell, and it's a nice, easy one. This one's not too tall, maybe about 4 feet. Self-pollinating, which is nice. Some gooseberries do require pollinators, but this one does not, which is nice about it. And has decent size, like little pea-shaped size berries on it, maybe even a little bit larger, that are quite tasty. A little sweetness, a little tartness to them. I don't know if you've ever had a gooseberry, and also gooseberries are pretty, once they're established, pretty drought tolerant as well. And full sun, they like the heat.
Super high in antioxidants.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, it's just a really good healthy food. It's kind of an old-fashioned fruit. It's one your grandparents would grow. But if you've done everything, you want something new or go back, everything that's old comes back to be new again. Gooseberries, currants, all those are coming back. But super drought hardy. And that particular variety is relatively thornless. Gooseberries are generally like, I'm going to eat your face off. This one only wants to eat your arms off. So it's pretty tough. Birds don't seem to go after them too bad. Artichokes. I know it's not part of it, but artichokes do really well here.
Yeah, you have to mulch them pretty well in winter here, so I would,
And bright sunny areas.
Right.
They seem to like sun.
Be careful of, I know gophers can be a problem with
Yeah.
artichokes, so be careful with that. If you have gophers, you want to keep them away from them. But they're a plant that it grows and produces, it dies down in the winter. You can call it a perennial fruiting vegetable, I guess you would call it. So to come back every year and produce fruit every summer for you, it dies back down, you cut it off. But probably the most important thing here is you want to have very good drainage for it in the winter so it doesn't rot out while it's in the dormant stage. And you probably want to mulch it over a bit to help protect the cold, if we have some extreme cold, from killing the roots in the soil.
Please don't have me over for dinner and serve me artichokes. I don't like them. I gag. But I do grow artichokes every year because it's just a beautiful plant. I mean, it screams it's like prehistoric looking.
Well, you got the flower.
I let it bloom.
Yeah.
I don't actually harvest artichokes. People are offended that I let it actually bloom. But it's the most beautiful, humongous flower with this beautiful blue color to it. No, there's no color like it in the plant kingdom. I like it because it's just freaky weird.
Does
like,
Lisa have any say in this?
No, I actually grow in a pot container. I've got a formal pot, and then I have this huge informal plant, and it just has this feng shui, sweet and sour kind of look. And everyone comments on it when it's in bloom. It's a bloomer in summer through fall, and I would not dare actually harvest the artichokes. And I'd be offended if you cut them off for me because I want to see the flower. Anyway, that's just, they do well in full sun. Mine's in a pot, blistering hot, on a patio. I mean, just blistering hot. It does fine. Okay, maybe 2 more questions and then you've got to cut it off. So we're already 13, 14 minutes over.
When you're talking about containers for blueberries and raspberries,
How
big?
The question is containers for some of these, how big a container? The answer is there's no container that's too large.
Okay.
There is containers that are too small. You will have best success if you're doing any type of container gardening, I don't care what it is, the larger the container, the easier it is to grow that plant. So, you want something probably about that big, for best success, to make it easy. It's not drying out too much. It's not getting too cold, the roots in the winter. Okay. If you have a big pot.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
I do the medium-sized pots in here. They got the monsters. You could bury a body in it and then plant a tree. Not the commercial size, but the next size down.
Yeah.
I use a lot of those, and I grow everything but the big brambles. They're just too big for the pots. But the shortcake, the little bushy ones, I do grow a lot of those. Roses, trees, I'll grow in bigger pots. They do just fine. I fill it from bottom to top with potting soil. I don't try to cut. Sometimes they'll tell you fill it with peat moss. All kinds of crazy. Fill it with Coca cans to lighten the weight. No, the more soil you have, the better off you're going to be. Because it's all about soil quantity. The more soil you have, the more sponge variable for water and food. That seems to be the secret. They'll grow for years before they actually fill up their pot.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, would you address late frost for protecting the fruit trees, including the figs? Do you do anything to cover them? Light bulbs, anything?
Now my figs are not leafed out yet.
Yeah.
Mine are still dormant, and they'll wait.
But after they bloom, would you do anything to protect the fruit trees?
Well,
My fruit trees I do.
The figs they're later in their bloom.
Yeah, what do you do to protect them?
I don't do anything for my figs or my grapes because they wait. They don't like spring. They wait until summer. They wait until it's hot. You swear they're dead. Then all of a sudden they go boom. They just start growing like crazy. My fruit trees, my cherry's in full bloom right now. I mean, it's just glorious. My apples, they're not quite in bloom yet, but the buds, everything's budded pretty heavy right now. If we do get a frost, please no frost. You can cover them with a sheet and then put a light bulb underneath it like a shop light. And we're not talking these high efficient LED. We need inefficient, like incandescent, 100 watt.
Meter bulbs.
Watch your electric meter go. I wish I had more solar. You want that kind of. You want heat, and then it will probably keep the core of the tree alive. You might lose some of the outer edges, but that's one. If we get here's the temperature. At 32 degrees, you'll lose about 10% of your fruit. At 31, you'll lose about 20. At 30, you'll lose. At 28 degrees, you lose 100% of your fruit. 28, that's the magic number. So at 28, it freezes all the way through. You lose all the buds, mainly all the flowers or fruits that have already formed. So watch for that. If you see it going to 28, or if it's real cold, or if you're in a dip-de-doo where all that cold air settles, you're at more risk. The secret truly is plant the latest bloomers possible. So all the fruit trees that we carry here, we purposely have hand-selected those so that they bloom as late as possible in our region. So there's some that are desert influence, they bloom earlier than others. So we try to bring the ones that bloom late as possible. So that's the real secret. If it's below 28 degrees, it's just over. I mean, lights out, unless you cover it, put a shelf or protect it in some way. I also, personal experience, I have more success with trees next to my lawn. I don't know why. You would think a lawn would make it more colder, but it seems to have this natural bubble that happens that protects it. Also, the trees next to my house. I noticed the house is seems to throw off enough heat that it protects it some. Those that are just out there away from the lawn, away from the house, they're at more, or down by that dry creek bed, those are the ones that are at most risk. Just personal experience. I don't have no science to back that up, just I've seen it over the years. That seems to be the case.
So if the flowers, blossoms survive and don't get killed by frost.
Correct.
And it sets fruit, those can still succumb to
Yes.
lower temperatures.
Her question is, the flowers have opened, they've actually pollinated, they've started to set fruit. Those are still susceptible to freezing. Absolutely. Very susceptible. They will shed every piece of fruit on there. You won't have an apricot or nectarine left. I mean, just, yeah. So you want to, from here through about the end of April, I sense the season's early this year, but as soon as you think that, you'll get a freak storm that'll come over and it'll frost and get your plants. So if you've got some fruit trees that are starting to bloom, put it on your radar to watch the weather, have a sheet ready or some shop lights or Christmas tree lights, the C7, C9s, you know, the real big, inefficient light bulbs. Those are great because they're super hot. They throw off a lot of heat. You can run those up and down the branches, or you just go, it was pretty while it was in bloom. Did I get some fruit? Did I get some fruit? If I don't, well, okay. I have been the judge at the county fair where I had nothing to judge. I mean, pumpkins are boring to judge. You want some apples and pears and peaches and stuff, and there were just no, and this is the county fair. That's Cottonwood, Sedona, this side of the hill and that side of the hill. There was nothing to judge. The frost had taken it all, even the ones that had been protected because it just went so cold. It goes to low 20s, game's over. And that, I don't sense that'll happen this year, but some years it can. So with that, Jim, I'd like to say thank you for coming. It's great. I learned a few things, especially on the uprights, the trailing, how to prune. That was very, very interesting. So thank you very much. Give him a hand, will you?